Jake stared at his laptop screen, refreshing his email for the 10th time that morning. Rent was due in 3 weeks, and his bank account was looking pretty sad. Working from home as a web developer was great, but it didn't pay enough to cover his downtown apartment alone. "Come on, somebody normal," he muttered, scrolling through the latest batch of roommate applications. The last guy who came to see the place had asked if he could keep his pet snake in the living room. The woman before that wanted to paint murals on every wall. Jake wasn't picky, but he drew the line at reptiles and unauthorized artwork. His phone buzzed. New email. "Hello. I am very interested in your room for rent. I can pay 6 months in advance. When can we meet?" See, Jake blinked. 6 months up front? That was either a scam or a miracle. He quickly typed back, suggesting they meet that afternoon. 2 hours later, Jake was straightening up the apartment when someone knocked. He opened the door and froze. The woman standing there was stunning, but in a way that made him feel slightly uncomfortable. Her skin was so pale it almost seemed to glow, and her eyes were the lightest blue he'd ever seen. Her dark hair fell in perfect waves, and she wore a simple gray dress that somehow looked expensive. "You must be Jake," she said, extending her hand. Her voice had a strange quality to it, like she was thinking carefully about each word. "I am Zara." Her handshake was firm but cold, really cold. Jake tried not to shiver. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. "Let me show you around." Zara moved through the apartment slowly, examining everything with intense focus. She ran her fingers along the walls, touched the kitchen counter, and spent a long time staring out the living room window. "The room gets good morning light," Jake said, opening the door to the spare bedroom. "And you'd have your own bathroom right here?" Zara nodded, walking to the window. She stood there for a moment, perfectly still, then turned back to him. "This will work perfectly," she said. "I have some requirements, if that's acceptable." Jake's heart sank. Here it comes, he thought, the weird request that would ruin everything. "I need a private space where I won't be disturbed," Zara continued. "I keep unusual hours and have specific health needs." "What kind of health needs?" Jake asked carefully. Zara hesitated. "I require regular physical proximity to others for my well-being. Nothing inappropriate, just being near people, sometimes brief contact." For medical reasons, Jake relaxed a little. That didn't sound too weird. Maybe she had anxiety or some kind of condition that made her need emotional support, like, "You need someone around to feel safe," he asked. "Something like that," Zara replied. "Would this be a problem?" Jake shrugged. "I work from home, so I'm here most of the time anyway. As long as you're not expecting me to be your personal therapist or anything." A small smile crossed Zara's face. "I assure you, I am quite capable of managing my own mental health." "Great. So, about the deposit." Jake started. Zara reached into her purse and pulled out a thick envelope. 6 months' rent, as promised. Cash. Jake's eyes widened. He'd never seen that much cash in one place before. "Are you sure this is legal?" "Completely legal," Zara said. "I prefer cash transactions." "Is this a problem?" "No, no problem at all," Jake said quickly. 6 months of rent in his hand was definitely not a problem. "Excellent. I can move in tomorrow." "If that works for you." Jake nodded, still staring at the envelope. "Sure. Do you need help with your stuff?" "I don't have much," Zara said. "I live simply." The next morning, Jake watched from his window as Zara arrived with just a small suitcases and a few boxes. No moving truck, no friends helping, just her, carrying everything herself. He went downstairs to help, but she was already at the door. "I can manage," she said when he reached for one of her boxes. "But thank you." The box felt strangely warm when she handed it to him, and he could swear he heard a faint humming sound coming from inside. "What's in here?" he asked. "Personal items," Zara replied. "Nothing dangerous." Jake decided not to push it. Everyone had their secrets. Over the next few days, Jake started noticing things about his new roommate. She was incredibly quiet, moving through the apartment like a ghost. He never heard her shower, never saw her cooking, and never caught her watching TV. But she was always impeccably clean. her hair always perfect, her clothes never wrinkled. She seemed to glide rather than walk, and sometimes he'd turn around and find her standing right behind him, as if she'd appeared out of thin air. "How do you do that?" he asked one morning after she'd somehow snuck up on him in the kitchen. "Do what?" Zara asked, tilting her head. "Moved so quietly. Are you a ninja? Or something?" That strange smile again. "I am simply naturally quiet." Jake also noticed that Zara seemed to be watching him. Not in a creepy way, exactly. But whenever he was in the common areas, she'd find reasons to be there too. She'd sit at the kitchen counter while he made coffee, stand nearby while he worked at his desk, always maintaining a respectful distance, but clearly wanting to be close. "Don't you have a job or anything?" Jake asked one afternoon. "I work remotely," Zara said. "Very flexible schedule." "Doing what?" "Research," she replied. "Cultural studies." Jake shrugged. Fair enough, remote work was becoming more common. But the strangest thing happened on Friday morning. Jake was rushing to get ready for a video call when he bumped into Zara in the hallway. His hand brushed against her arm, and something incredible happened. For just a moment, Jake felt amazing. Not just good, but like every cell in his body was suddenly energized. His tired eyes felt refreshed, his sore back stopped aching, and his mind felt clearer than it had in weeks. Zara, meanwhile, seemed to exhale deeply, her shoulders relaxing in a way he'd never seen before. Her pale skin took on a warmer tone, and those strange light eyes seemed to brighten. "Sorry," Jake said, stepping back. "Didn't mean to bump into you." "No need to apologize," Zara said softly. "That was nice." Jake stood there for a moment, confused by his own reaction. It had felt like drinking the perfect cup of coffee and taking a refreshing nap at the same time. But that was impossible. It had just been a brief touch. "I should get to my meeting," he said finally. "Of course," Zara replied, but she didn't move away immediately. She stayed close, as if she wanted to say something else. Jake went to his room, but he couldn't concentrate on his video call. He kept thinking about that moment in the hallway, about how good he'd felt, about how Zara had seemed to come alive under his touch. Over the weekend, he found himself paying more attention to his roommate. She really was beautiful, in an otherworldly way. But more than that, she was intelligent and surprisingly easy to talk to. She had insights about art and science that impressed him, and she asked thoughtful questions about his work. "Have you always lived in the city?" Jake asked on Sunday evening as they shared the living room space. "No," Zara said. "I'm from very far away, a small town, very different from here." "Do you miss it?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. "Sometimes, but I like it here. It's warmer." Jake glanced outside at the cold autumn evening. "Warmer?" "The people," Zara clarified. "The energy here is different, more alive." Jake nodded, though he wasn't sure what she meant. There was something about the way Zara spoke that made him feel like she was choosing her words very carefully, like English wasn't her first language. But her accent was hard to place. As he got ready for bed that night, Jake realized he was genuinely happy to have Zara as a roommate. She was quiet, clean, paid her rent on time, and somehow made him feel more relaxed just by being around. He had no idea how much his life was about to change. Jake started keeping a mental note of Zara's behavior patterns. It wasn't intentional at first, but living with someone made you notice things. Small things that slowly added up to something bigger. Monday morning, Zara looked incredible. Her skin had this healthy glow, her eyes were bright, and she moved with energy. She actually hummed while making her strange herbal tea that smelled like flowers. Jake couldn't identify. "You seem happy today," he said, grabbing his coffee. "I feel wonderful," Zara replied, and her smile was radiant. "Thank you for asking." By Wednesday, something had changed. The glow was gone. Zara's skin looked pale again, almost gray. She moved slower, like she was tired. Dark circles appeared under her eyes, and she seemed to fade into the background of their shared space. "You feeling okay?" Jake asked when he found her sitting quietly in the living room, staring out the window. "Just tired," she said, but her voice sounded weak. "I'll be fine." Thursday was worse. Zara barely came out of her room, and when she did, she looked sick, really sick. Her hand shook slightly when she reached for things, and she kept touching the walls as if she needed support to walk. Jake was getting worried. Maybe you should see a doctor. No doctors, Zara said quickly. I just need rest. But Friday morning, Jake realized it wasn't about rest at all. He was rushing to his computer for an important client call when he accidentally knocked into Zara in the hallway. His shoulder bumped her arm, and immediately, that same incredible feeling washed over him. Every muscle in his body relaxed, his mind became crystal clear, and he felt like he just had the best sleep of his life. At the same time, Zara seemed to come alive. Color returned to her cheeks, her eyes brightened, and she stood up straighter. The transformation was instant and obvious. "Oh," Jake said, stepping back. "That was." "I'm sorry," Zara said. But she didn't look sorry. She looked relieved. "I should have warned you." "Warn me about what?" Zara hesitated. "The contact. Sometimes it affects people." Jake stared at her. "How does bumping into you make me feel like?" "I just drank the world's best energy drink. It's complicated," Zara said, avoiding his eyes. "Try me." But Zara just shook her head and disappeared into her room. Jake couldn't focus on his client call. He kept thinking about the pattern he'd noticed. Zara looked great on Monday. Right after that first accidental touch on Friday, she'd been declining all week, and now, after another brief contact, she was glowing again. Over the weekend, Jake watched her carefully. By Sunday evening, she was pale and tired again. Her movements were slower, and she seemed to be struggling just to stay upright. "Zara, seriously, what's going on?" he asked. "You look sick." "I'm fine," she insisted. But her voice was barely a whisper. Jake didn't believe her. Something was definitely wrong. Monday night, Jake woke up to a strange sound from the living room. A soft thud, like something heavy falling. He checked his phone. 3 in the morning. He found Zara collapsed on the floor near the couch, unconscious. Her skin was gray, almost blue around her lips, and she felt ice cold when he touched her. "Zara." Jake shook her gently. "Zara, wake up." Nothing. He checked for a pulse and found one, but it was weak and slow. He grabbed his phone to call 911, but something made him pause. She'd been so adamant about no doctors. Instead, he knelt beside her and took her hand in both of his. "Come on, Zara. Whatever's happening, we'll figure it out." The change was immediate. Warmth spread through her fingers, then up her arm. Color returned to her face, and her breathing became stronger. Within minutes, her eyes fluttered open. "Jake?" she whispered. "I'm here," he said, still holding her hand. "What happened? Are you okay?" Zara tried to sit up, and Jake helped her to the couch. She looked better already, but there was something different in her eyes. Fear, maybe, or resignation. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something important, okay?" Jake said, sitting beside her but keeping hold of her hand. He noticed that she seemed to get stronger the longer they maintained contact. "Promise me you won't call the police or the hospital," Zara said. "I can't promise that if you're in danger." "I'm not in danger. Not anymore. But I need you to listen to everything before you decide what to do." Jake nodded. "I'm listening." Zara took a deep breath. "I'm not from here, Jake. Not from this city. Not from this state. Not from this planet." Jake blinked. "What? I know how it sounds. But it's true. I'm from a place very far away. A dying place. My people sent me here to study humans, to see if we could coexist." "Your people," Jake repeated slowly. "You mean like aliens? That's your word for it, yes?" Jake stared at her. A week ago, he would have laughed, but after everything he'd witnessed, after the way their contact affected both of them, he found himself actually considering it. "Prove it," he said. Zara nodded. She closed her eyes and concentrated. Slowly, her skin began to change. The surface became translucent, revealing intricate patterns of light flowing beneath like veins made of starlight. Her eyes shifted to a deeper blue, almost violet, and her hair seemed to move on its own, as if she was underwater. Jake's breath caught. "Holy, this is my true form," Zara said. her voice taking on a musical quality. Well, closer to it. I can only maintain this appearance for a short time. You're actually, Jake started, then stopped. You're actually an alien? Yes, and you need. What? Our energy? Zara's appearance shifted back to human normal, and she looked exhausted from the effort. My species absorbs life energy through physical contact. It's how we survive. Your people produce more energy than you use, so taking a little doesn't hurt you. Is that why I feel so good when we touch? Yes, the energy exchange goes both ways. I take what I need, but I also give back. I balance and strengthen your natural energy patterns. Jake sat back, processing. So you're like an energy vampire? I suppose that's one way to put it, Zara said sadly, though I prefer to think of it as symbiosis. Both species benefit. How long can you go without feeding? About a week, if I'm careful. Less if I'm stressed or if I have to maintain my human appearance for extended periods. Jake looked at her, really looked at her. She was still beautiful, still the same person he'd been getting to know. But now everything made sense. Her cold skin, her perfect appearance, the way she moved. So quietly, her strange sleeping patterns. Are there others like you here? A few? Scouts, like me. We're testing whether humans are compatible with our survival needs, and if we are, Zara was quiet for a long moment. Then more of my people will come. Many more. Our planet is dying. Jake, we need somewhere new to live. And you chose Earth. Earth chose us. Your species produces exactly the kind of energy we need. It's almost like we were made for each other. Jake stood up and walked to the window. The city lights twinkled below, and he wondered how many other aliens might be out there, living among humans, surviving on their energy. What happens now? He asked. That depends on you. Zara said, I've broken the rules by telling you the truth. I was supposed to study you without revealing myself, but I couldn't let you find me dead on your floor and not understand why. Jake turned back to her. Will you die without regular contact? Yes, and it doesn't hurt me? No. In fact, it helps you. You've probably noticed you sleep better, think more clearly, feel more energetic after we touch. Jake had noticed. He'd been sleeping great since she moved in, and his work performance had improved dramatically. So what you're saying is, if I help you, we both benefit. Yes, but Jake, I need you to understand something else. I'm not just some creature looking for a host. I chose you specifically. Why? Because your energy signature is unique, stronger than most humans, but also kinder. When I touch you, I can sense your emotions, your thoughts. You're a good person, Jake. That matters to me. Jake felt his cheeks warm. You can read my mind. Not exactly. More like I can feel what you feel. And you feel safe, warm, honest. She paused. I've never experienced that before. Jake sat back down, closer to her this time. So what happens now? Now you decide if you want to help me survive, knowing what I am and what I need. Jake looked at her pale, hopeful face. And if I say yes, then we figure out how to make this work for both of us. And if I say no, then I'll leave. And you'll never see me again. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Where would you go? I don't know. Find someone else, maybe. Or, she shrugged. Maybe I wouldn't. The thought of Zara dying because he refused to help her made Jake's chest tight. Do you want to hurt humans? No, never. I want to coexist peacefully. And your people? Some feel the same way I do. Others see humans as just resources. Zara met his eyes. But I'm not like them. I care about you. Jake, not just as an energy source, but as a person. Jake realized his decision was already made. Okay, yes, I'll help you. We'll figure this out together. Zara's smile was brighter than any light he'd ever seen. The next morning felt like waking up in a different world. Jake made coffee and kept glancing at Zara, half expecting her to vanish like a dream. But she was there, sitting at the kitchen counter, looking more human than ever but somehow completely different at the same time. So, Jake said, sliding a mug toward her, do you actually drink coffee? Or is this just part of the act? Zara smiled and took a sip. I can drink it, but it doesn't affect me the way it affects you. I mostly do it to blend in. Right, blending in. Jake sat across from her. I have about 1,000,000 questions. I figured you would. Let's start with the basics. Do you sleep? Not the way you do. I rest, but I don't dream. I just recharge. And food? I can eat small amounts to maintain appearances, but I don't need it. Your energy is my food. Jake nodded, trying to process this new reality. What about your job? The research thing. That part is true. I study human behavior, culture, social patterns. Everything I learn gets reported back to my people, including information about me. Zara looked uncomfortable. Yes, but Jake, I need you to know that I never described you as just a subject. I told them you were special. Special how? Intelligent, kind, someone who could be trusted. She paused. I may have left out some details about how much I enjoy your company. Jake felt his cheeks warm. You enjoy my company more than I should. Probably. It's not just the energy, Jake. You make me feel. I don't know how to explain it. Safe, content, things I've never felt before. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Jake was surprised by how normal this felt, despite everything he'd learned. So how do we make this work? He asked. We need to establish some ground rules, Zara said, for both our sakes, over the next hour. They worked out the details. Zara needed physical contact at least once a day to maintain her health. More if she was stressed or had to use her abilities. A simple touch would work, but longer contact was better. What kind of contact? Jake asked. Anything. Holding hands. A hug. Sitting close together. Skin to skin works best, but it's not required. And it won't hurt me? Not at all. In fact, you'll probably feel better afterward. My people naturally optimize the energy systems we touch. Jake had already noticed this. Since Zara moved in, he'd been sleeping better, thinking more clearly, and feeling more energetic overall. What about boundaries? He asked. Whatever you're comfortable with. I never want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable. And what do you get out of this, besides the energy? Zara considered this companionship. Someone who knows what I am and accepts it. I've been alone for so long, pretending to be something I'm not. You don't have to pretend with me anymore. Thank you. That means more than you know. They decided on a simple schedule. Morning contact when they had coffee, and evening contact while watching TV or just talking. Nothing forced, nothing uncomfortable. Just two roommates sharing space, with the added benefit of keeping one of them alive. What if I'm not home? Jake asked. I can manage for a day or two if needed, but I'd prefer if you let me know when you'll be gone for extended periods. Of course, that evening, they tried their first official contact session. They sat on the couch, and Zara carefully placed her hand on Jake's arm. The effect was immediate and pleasant. Jake felt a warm, tingling sensation that spread through his whole body, like sinking into a hot bath after a long day. How does it feel for you? He asked. Like coming home, Zara said softly. Like being hungry and finally eating something delicious. Jake noticed that her skin took on a healthy glow, and she seemed to relax completely for the first time since he'd known her. This is nice, he said. Really nice. I'm glad you think so. As the days passed, they fell into a comfortable routine. Jake would wake up and find Zara in the kitchen, already preparing his coffee. They'd sit together, her hand resting on his arm or shoulder, talking about their plans for the day. Jake discovered that Zara was incredibly intelligent. She had insights about science, art, and philosophy that amazed him. She could discuss quantum physics and poetry with equal ease, and her perspective on human nature was fascinating. You see things we don't see about ourselves, Jake told her one evening. I have the advantage of distance, Zara replied. When you're not part of something, you can observe it more objectively. What do you think about us, humans? I mean, you're remarkable, chaotic and beautiful and completely unpredictable. My people are very logical, very controlled. We don't have the emotional range that humans do. Do you wish you did? Sometimes, especially since I've been here, since I've been with you. Jake found himself looking forward to their contact sessions more than he probably should. There was something intimate about them, beyond the physical sensation. When Zara touched him, he felt connected to her in a way he'd never experienced with anyone else. "Can you actually read my thoughts?" he asked one night. "Not exactly. I can sense your emotions, your general mood. Sometimes I get flashes of what you're thinking about, but it's not clear like reading a book. What am I thinking about right now?" Zara closed her eyes and concentrated. "You're curious about my world. You want to know what it's like where I come from." She was right. Jake had been wondering about her planet, her people, what her life was like before Earth. "Tell me about your home," he said. Zara's expression grew sad. "It's dying. The star that gives us life is fading, and our planet is growing cold. We've known for generations that we'd eventually have to leave, but we never found anywhere suitable until we discovered Earth. How many of your people are there?" "Not many. Maybe a few. 1,000 left. We're not a large species to begin with, and the dying planet has made it hard to survive." Jake felt a pang of sympathy. "That must be terrifying." "It is, which is why finding Earth, finding humans, was such a gift. You're our best hope for survival. And that's why you're here, to see if we're compatible." "Yes, though I'm beginning to think there might be more to it than just compatibility." "What do you mean?" Zara looked at him carefully. "I think we might actually be able to help each other. Not just survive together, but thrive together." Jake was starting to understand what she meant. The energy exchange wasn't just one-sided. He genuinely felt better when they had contact, not just physically, but emotionally. He was happier, more focused, more creative. Has this happened before? With other humans? Not like this. Other scouts have found humans who can provide energy, but none have reported the level of connection that we have. Connection, Jake. When I touch you, I don't just take energy. I feel what you feel. Your kindness, your curiosity, your genuine care for others. It's changing me. Changing you how? I'm starting to understand things I never understood before. Compassion, loyalty, what your people call love. Jake's breath caught. Love? I don't know if that's the right word. I've never experienced it before. But what I feel for you is more than just gratitude or friendship. Jake realized he was feeling something similar. Over the past few weeks, he'd grown genuinely fond of Zara, not just because she was beautiful or mysterious, but because she was intelligent, kind, and surprisingly vulnerable. "I care about you too," he said, "more than I probably should." "Why shouldn't you?" "Because you're not human. This is complicated." "Does it have to be?" Jake thought about it. Did it have to be complicated? Zara was kind, intelligent, and honest. She made him feel good about himself and brought out the best in him. The fact that she wasn't human seemed less important than the fact that she was good. "Maybe not," he said finally. "I hope not. Because Jake, I want you to know that you're not just my energy source. You're becoming my friend. My closest friend. You're mine too." That night, as they sat together on the couch, Jake felt a shift. In their relationship, they were no longer just roommates helping each other out. They were becoming something more, something unique. "What happens when your people come?" Jake asked. "I don't know, but I hope they'll see what I see. That humans and my people can coexist peacefully, that we can help each other. And if they don't," Zara was quiet for a long moment, "then I'll have to make a choice." "What kind of choice?" "Between my duty to my people and my loyalty to you." Jake squeezed her hand. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that." "Let's hope," Zara agreed. But even as she said it, Jake could sense her worry. Something was coming. Something that would test everything they built together. For now, though, they had each other, and that felt like enough. 3 months into their arrangement, Jake realized he had a problem, a big one. He was falling for Zara. It started small, looking forward to their morning coffee sessions a little too much, feeling disappointed when she had to skip their evening contact because she was working, catching himself staring at her when she wasn't looking, admiring the way the light caught her hair or how her eyes crinkled when she smiled. But it was more than just attraction. Jake genuinely enjoyed her company. Their conversations were the highlight of his day. Zara saw the world in ways that fascinated him. and she seemed genuinely interested in his thoughts and opinions. "You've been quiet today," Zara said one evening. As they sat together on the couch, her hand rested on his arm, and he felt that familiar warm sensation spreading through his body. "Just thinking," Jake replied. "About what?" Jake hesitated. How could he explain that he was developing feelings for someone who wasn't even human? "Just work stuff," but Zara tilted her head, studying his face. "I can sense when you're not telling the truth, you know." "What do you mean?" "Your emotions. They change when you're being dishonest. Right now, you're conflicted about something." Jake sighed. "Sometimes I forget you can do that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to invade your privacy. It's just natural for me." "What else can you sense?" Zara looked uncomfortable. "Jake, maybe we shouldn't." "No, I want to know. What am I feeling right now?" Zara closed her eyes and concentrated. When she opened them again, her cheeks had a slight pink tint. You have feelings for me." "Romantic feelings?" Jake felt his face burn. "Is it that obvious?" "Not to most people. But when we have contact, I can feel everything you feel. Your affection, your caring, she paused, "your attraction." "Are you uncomfortable with that?" "No," Zara said quickly. "Actually, it's the opposite. I feel the same way." Jake's heart skipped. "You do?" "Yes, which is a problem." "Why is it a problem?" Before Zara could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and went completely still. "What is it?" Jake asked. "Someone's coming. Someone from my people." "When?" "Tomorrow." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Is that bad?" "I don't know. Probably." Zara stood up and began pacing. "They weren't supposed to check on me for another month. Why are they coming early? I may have missed a few reports. Or maybe they're suspicious about my progress. What kind of progress are they expecting?" Zara stopped pacing and looked at him. "They want to know if humans are viable energy sources. For large-scale contact, if we can control you, manipulate you, take what we need without resistance." Jake felt cold. "And what have you been telling them?" "That humans are compatible, but that the relationship needs to be consensual. That humans respond better to partnership than domination. And they don't like that answer? Some of my people see humans as nothing more than resources. They don't understand why I care about your well-being." The next evening, Jake was working at his computer when he heard voices in the living room. Zara was speaking in a language he'd never heard before, musical but somehow cold. Another voice responded, deeper and harsher. Jake quietly made his way to the hallway and peered around the corner. A tall figure stood with Zara near the window. Like her, he appeared human at first glance, but something was off. His movements were too precise, his posture too perfect. His dark hair was swept back from a face that was handsome, but completely expressionless. "This is taking too long," the visitor said, switching to English. His voice had no warmth in it. "You should have completed your assessment months ago." "The research is complex," Zara replied. "Humans are more complicated than we initially thought." "Complicated how?" "They have individual personalities, different energy signatures, varying levels of compatibility. It's not a simple matter of subduing them and taking what we need." The visitor turned toward Jake's hiding spot, and Jake quickly ducked back into the hallway. "Is the human here?" the visitor asked. "Yes, his name is Jake. He's been cooperative. Show me." Jake heard footsteps approaching and quickly retreated to his room, closing the door softly. His heart was pounding. Something about that other alien felt dangerous in a way that Zara never had. A few minutes later, Zara knocked on his door. "Jake, there's someone I'd like you to meet." Jake opened the door to find Zara looking tense and worried. Behind her stood the visitor, studying Jake with cold, calculating eyes. "This is Kale," Zara said. "He's here to assess my progress." Kale stepped forward and extended his hand. "Pleased to meet you." Jake shook his hand and immediately regretted it. Where contact with Zara felt warm and energizing, this felt like being drained. Kale's touch was cold and pulling, like a vacuum trying to suck something out of him. Jake yanked his hand back. "Nice to meet you too." Kale's eyes narrowed slightly. "Interesting. You're more resistant than I expected." "Resistant to what?" "Energy extraction," Kale said matter-of-factly. Most humans are completely compliant during the process. Jake looked at Zara, who was clearly uncomfortable. What does that mean? It means you have a stronger will than most of your species. Kale continued, which could be useful or it could be problematic. Useful how? Strong-willed humans provide better quality energy, but they're also harder to control. Jake felt a chill. Control? Kale, Zara said sharply. We agreed to discuss this privately first. There's nothing to discuss, Kale replied. The plan is simple. We establish feeding relationships with humans, take what we need, and move on. The humans' feelings about it are irrelevant. That's not what we're doing here, Zara said. No? Then explain to me why you formed an emotional attachment to this one. Jake looked between them. Emotional attachment? Zara has been reporting that you're a willing participant in energy sharing, Kale said. But she failed to mention that. She's developed feelings for you, and that's a problem because emotions compromise judgment. Zara's job is to assess human viability, not to play house with one of them. Jake felt anger rising. She's not playing house. We're friends. Friends? Kale laughed, a sound completely devoid of humor. You're a food source, nothing more. That's enough, Zara said firmly. Jake, could you give us some privacy? We need to discuss some things. Jake reluctantly went to his room, but he could hear their conversation through the thin walls. They'd switched back to their own language, but the tone was clear. Kale was angry, and Zara was defensive. After about an hour, Jake heard the front door close. He waited a few minutes, then found Zara sitting on the couch, looking exhausted. He's gone, Jake asked. For now. Want to tell me what that was about? Zara sighed. Kale thinks I've compromised my mission by getting too close to you. He wants me to complete my assessment and prepare for the next phase, which is bringing more of my people to Earth, establishing permanent feeding relationships with humans. Jake sat beside her. And you don't want that? Not the way he's planning it. Kale sees humans as livestock. He wants to set up farms, essentially. Keep humans in controlled environments and harvest their energy. That's horrible. I know. That's why I've been trying to show them there's a better way. What kind of better way? Partnership, mutual benefit, relationships like ours, where both sides choose to participate and both sides gain something. Jake took her hand. What did you tell him about us? The truth. That you're willing to help me, that the energy exchange benefits you too, and that we've developed a genuine friendship. Just friendship? Zara looked at him sadly. I couldn't tell him about my feelings for you, or yours for me. He would never understand. Do you think he believed you? I don't know. But Jake, there's something else, something I haven't told you. What? When we have contact, when I touch you, we're more connected than I've admitted, especially during longer sessions. Connected how? Sometimes I can see your thoughts, your memories, and you can probably sense mine too, if you pay attention. Jake thought about it. During their evening sessions, he sometimes felt like he could almost hear Zara's voice in his head, could sense her emotions as if they were his own. Is that normal? No, it's never happened to any of my people before. That level of connection should be impossible between our species. But it's happening to us. Yes, and Jake, I think it means something important. Like what? I think we're bonded, really bonded. Like our energy patterns have synchronized. Jake felt a strange thrill at the idea. Is that good or bad? I don't know. It's never happened before. That night, during their usual evening session, Jake paid closer attention to what he was feeling. As Zara's hand rested on his arm, he focused on the connection between them. Suddenly, images flashed through his mind, not his own memories, but Zara's, her world, cold and dying, her people, desperate and frightened, her journey to Earth, alone and terrified, her first sight of him, and the unexpected warmth she'd felt. Ho, Jake said, opening his eyes. You saw it too, didn't you? Zara asked. Your world, your memories, and I saw yours, your childhood, your family, your dreams for the future. They stared at each other, both amazed and slightly scared by what had just happened. What does this mean? Jake asked. I think it means we're more than just compatible, Zara said. I think we're connected in a way that goes beyond anything my people have experienced before. And Kale, he can never know about this. If he finds out how deeply we're bonded, he'll either try to exploit it. For 3 days after Kel's visit, Zara barely spoke. She moved through the apartment like a ghost, completing her daily routines but clearly lost in thought. Jake tried to give her space, but he could feel her distress through their connection. On the 4th morning, Jake found her staring out the living room window, tears streaming down her face. "Hey," he said softly, sitting beside her. "Talk to me." "They're coming," Zara whispered. "All of them." "When?" "Tomorrow night." Kale reported back that humans are suitable for large-scale energy harvesting. "My people have approved a full colonization mission." Jake felt ice in his veins. "How many?" "A few hundred initially. More will follow if the first wave is successful, and they're planning to do what Kale suggested. Turn humans into energy farms." Zara nodded miserably. "They see it as the most efficient solution. Control the humans, harvest their energy, ensure survival for our species." "But you disagree." "Of course I disagree. Humans aren't cattle." "Jake, you're intelligent, feeling beings with your own hopes and dreams. What my people are planning is wrong." Jake took her hand and immediately felt the depth of her conflict. She was torn between loyalty to her dying species and her love for him and humanity. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. If I oppose them openly, they'll remove me from the mission. They might even," she shuddered, "even what? Execute me for treason. My people don't tolerate betrayal, especially when survival is at stake." Jake pulled her closer. "There has to be another way." "Like what?" "How do I convince a desperate, dying species that they should consider the feelings of their food source?" "By showing them what we have. This connection between us, the way we help each other." Zara looked at him with sad eyes. "You don't understand. To them, our bond is proof that I've been compromised. They think emotions make us weak. Maybe emotions make us stronger." That evening, as they sat together on the couch, Jake had an idea. "What if we could prove that partnership works better than domination?" "How?" "Show them our connection. Let them see how much stronger you are when we work together versus when you just take energy by force." Zara considered this. "It's risky. If they see how deeply we're bonded, they might try to use you against me. I'm willing to take that risk." "Jake, you don't understand what you're offering. These aren't people like me. Most of my kind are cold, logical, focused only on survival. They won't care about your well-being, but they'll care about efficiency, right? If we can prove that, willing partnerships produce better results than forced extraction, maybe. But Jake, even if we convince them, there's something else." "What?" "They expect me to return home with them, to help establish the colony and then come back to our dying world." Jake's heart sank. "And you have to go. If I refuse, I'll be branded a traitor. But if I go," she looked at him with heartbroken eyes, "I'll never see you again." "Then don't go. It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. Stay here with me. We'll figure out the rest together and abandon my people to die." Jake was quiet for a moment. "What if you didn't have to choose? What if there was a way to save your people and stay with me?" "I don't see how." "What if you became an ambassador? Someone who helps both species work together instead of one exploiting the other." "The council would never agree to that." "They might, if we can prove it works." The next evening, Jake waited nervously as Zara prepared for the arrival of her people. She'd been in contact with them throughout the day, trying to set up a meeting that would give them a chance to present their alternative plan. "Are you sure about this?" Zara asked for the 10th time. "I'm sure. We're stronger together, right?" "Yes." "But then let's show them." At exactly 9 p.m., Jake felt a strange pressure in the air. The temperature in the apartment dropped several degrees, and the lights flickered. "They're here," Zara said. The front door opened without anyone touching it. 5 figures entered, all appearing human at first glance, but moving with that same unnatural precision Jake had noticed in Kale. Their leader was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes like ice. "Zara," the woman said, "I'm Council Leader Venya. You have requested an audience." "Yes." "Honor Leader, I want to show you something important about human-our-people relationships. Venya's cold gaze fixed on Jake. This is your test subject. His name is Jake, and he's my partner. Partner? One of the other aliens laughed harshly. You mean pet? No, Zara said firmly. I mean partner. Jake, will you show them? Jake stepped forward, his heart pounding. I understand you need energy to survive, and I understand your world is dying. But I want to show you that there's a better way than just taking what you need. He reached out and took Zara's hand. Immediately, the familiar warm sensation flowed between them, but this time Jake concentrated on strengthening it. He opened his mind completely, allowing their connection to deepen. The change in Zara was dramatic. Her skin began to glow with soft light, her eyes brightened, and she seemed to grow taller and more confident. But more importantly, Jake could feel her power increasing. The energy flowing between them was more powerful than anything they'd experienced before. Impossible, Venya breathed. This is what happens when the exchange is willing, Zara explained. When both beings choose to participate and both benefit from the connection. The human is unharmed, another council member asked. I'm not just unharmed, Jake said. I'm better, stronger, healthier, more focused. Our connection helps both of us. Venya approached them, studying their joined hands with fascination. The energy output is significantly higher than forced extraction, and sustainable, Zara added. Jake doesn't lose energy over time. Our bond actually makes him stronger, which makes the energy he can share stronger too. Furthermore, Jake continued, humans who choose to participate will be cooperative, helpful. We could work together instead of fighting each other. One successful case doesn't prove the concept, Kale said from the back of the group. Then, let us prove it, Zara said. Give me time to establish more partnerships like this one. Let me show you that cooperation works better than domination. And how do you propose to do that while returning home with us? Venya asked. This was the moment Jake had been waiting for. She doesn't return with you. She stays here as an ambassador. She helps establish ethical partnerships while I help her document the process. Impossible. Kale said, Zara's duty is to her people. My duty is to save my people, Zara corrected. And this is the best way to do that. Venya was quiet for a long moment, studying them both. You would give up everything for this human? I would give up everything to save both our species, Zara said. Jake isn't just important to me personally. He represents the potential for our peoples to coexist peacefully. And you, human, Venya addressed Jake. What do you gain from this arrangement? I gain Zara, Jake said simply. Someone I care about. Someone who makes me better than I am alone. And I gain the knowledge that I'm helping prevent a war between our species. War, if you try to enslave humans, we'll fight back. We always do. But if you offer partnership, most humans will help willingly. Jake felt Zara squeeze his hand, and through their connection, he felt her love and gratitude. Venya conferred quietly with the other council members in their musical language. Finally, she turned back to them. We will give you 6 months, she announced. Establish 10 successful partnerships. Document the energy yields, the sustainability, the human cooperation levels. If your method proves superior to forced extraction, we will consider adopting it permanently. And if it doesn't, Zara asked, then you will return with us. And we will proceed with the original plan. Agreed, Zara said immediately. As the council members filed out, Venya paused at the door. Zara, you are taking an enormous risk. I know. This human has changed you. Yes, he has. I hope, for both our sakes, that the change is for the better. After they left, Jake and Zara collapsed onto the couch, emotionally exhausted. 6 months, Jake said. 6 months to save both our species, Zara agreed. No pressure or anything. Zara laughed, the first genuine laugh Jake had heard from her in days. We can do this, Jake. I know we can. How are you so confident? Because we have something my people have never had before. What's that? Love, real, genuine love, and that's more powerful than any energy source. Jake pulled her closer, feeling their connection strengthen. I love you too, Zara. I know. I can feel it. So what now? Now we get to work. We find people who are open-minded, who need what we can offer them. We show the world that humans and my people can be friends, not just predator and prey. And after 6 months? After 6 months, hopefully we'll have changed the course of history for both our species. Jake kissed her forehead, marveling at how much his life had changed since that first day she'd knocked on his door. Just promise me one thing, he said. Anything, whatever happens, we stay together. Always, Zara promised, in this world or any other. As they sat together in their apartment, planning how to save two worlds, Jake realized he'd never been happier. He found love in the most unlikely place, with the most impossible person, and together, they were going to change everything. 6 months to prove that love was stronger than fear. That cooperation was better than control. That two different species could not just coexist, but thrive together. Jake couldn't wait to get started.